Well, good morning, everybody. It is 10 a.m. on Wednesday of Comics Camp Week 5, and this is our LoonToons live draw. I'm looking forward to drawing some loons with you. Let's see. All right. So this is through Comics Camp. I'm Marek Bennett. My website's marekbennett.com. You can always find the archived video there, /Comics Camp to get the information about Comics Camp. Some of you are already in Comics Camp, and if you're not, you can join us anytime over the summer. And if you join the Patreon, you get lots of bonus stuff too. Comics Camp Week 5 is all about diary comics, and we have a special diary challenge. Draw a daily comic based on something that happens to you, and we're doing that challenge every day this week. So I've been drawing diary comics. I've seen some campers comics. It's pretty cool stuff. And we're also working our imagination into these diary comics. They're not just journalistic reporting. They are imagination plus events from our lives. It's a lot of fun. And that's what we're going to do today with the loons. So welcome especially to our Kimball Jenkins camp families. Wonderful to have you here. This is, I believe, week 3 of Kimball Jenkins camp. And it's great to have you folks joining us week after week or 1 week at a time. Welcome to Comics Camp. Colebrook, New Hampshire Comics Club is also joining us this week. Great to have you folks here. And this, the LoonToons are part of the USDA Green July camp. And also thanks to new patrons of the Patreon. Thanks for joining. Thanks for supporting these programs. Wonderful to have you here all summer long drawing with us. All right, you got your paper, you got your pencil, you got your LoonToons loony ideas, and we are ready to draw along. So last week, we divided our page into quarters, and then we looked at 4 actions that our loons did and how to construct these loons. We're going to go back over that. So if you don't remember, that's fine. We're going to practice this a lot, but I want to try something a little different today. So today, I actually have 2 sheets of paper, and we'll try 2 different forms. So starting off with our first sheet of paper. Remember, oh, maybe I forgot to say this last week. One of the things I like to do with my paper is I mark out the edges. And this kind of, for me, this turns this paper into, from a sheet of paper into a page of artwork. You're going to see over the course of the summer, I think you're going to see my nails, my fingernails are going to get dirtier and dirtier because I've been out working in the garden with all the birds and animals out there digging in the dirt and weeding. So don't be disturbed if my hands look really dirty in these live draws. I get under the camera and I realize, oof, I've been in the dirt. All right. So I didn't do this. I'm noticing I didn't do this on this page. And sometimes things happen, like a very important part of the picture will end up right at the edge of the page. And if I put this page into a how to draw book or a graphic novel, sometimes the edges get cut off. And I don't want to lose that most important part of the picture, that fish right at the edge of the page. So if I put a little buffer, a little margin around the page, that frame reminds me not to draw to the very edge. I'll draw within this safety zone here. And I'll keep my artwork out of that margin. So let's keep that in mind as we draw. So now we have a page to pour our artwork into. So I was thinking today is a very special day in the loon community here in New Hampshire. Because this is the loon breeding season, it's the nesting season, and we may have some loons hatching any time this week. Actually, we are on hatch watch for some loons. So let's start down here, not right at the bottom, but a little ways up. Let's create our water. And remember, we're cartooning. LoonToons are where loons meet cartoons. We're not drawing realistic water. I mean, you can try to draw realistic water if you want, but I'm going to draw really cartoony water. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. And I'm penciling because I might want to make some changes, but I think this water line is fine. So there's my water. And then let's create, remember last week we looked at how to make a loon nest. So the way I make it from the top down. The loons, I understand, make it from the bottom up. But here's how I draw a loon nest. So I'm going to make the top of the nest there. It's a little bit above the water, but it's a short jump from the nest to the water. So if a loon sitting in the nest sees a predator or danger coming, they're just going to slip right into the water and be safe if they need to, in the worst case. Then we'll make some grass coming down. They like to pile up lots of grass coming down in that direction and in that direction. And that already sort of looks like a mound of grass. Maybe I'll bring some straight down in front here. And that kind of going in this direction on the side, we can add a couple more in because it's not very orderly. They're kind of jumbled in and tangled in. Going in this direction on this side, this direction on this side, and straight down in the middle, that kind of makes it look like a rounded jumble of grass. And maybe a couple other directions tangled in here, right? We want it to look a little messy. There's even going to be some mud and leaves and things. You might walk past a loon nest and think, oh, who piled up a bunch of grass and mud here, and not even realize what you're seeing sometimes. So let's see. And then we will, I guess that's kind of the point, right? You don't want your nest to stick out. Like grass stands up. You want your nest to kind of get in among the grass and disappear. Let's put some standing grass, giving that nest some cover. That looks really nice already. Doesn't that look nice and scratchy, muddy and mucky, and you just want to sit on it and warm it up? Well, if you're a loon, you do. And then we'll put a loon in here. So this might be a mama loon or it might be a dad loon. It's hard to tell because their coloring is pretty much the same as far as I can tell. But we'll have to check that and make sure I'm getting the facts right here. So the loons, remember we do them, the LoonToons at least, we make them sort of like a teardrop shape, but I don't even need to draw that lower part of the teardrop shape. See that raindrop shape, right? A pointy on the tail, round on the front. I don't even need to draw that lower part here. Or if I do draw it, that's fine. That helps me see the shape. I can just erase it. Remember, we're going to come back through this picture doing our pie process. We're going to come back over this picture. Once we've penciled it, then we'll come back in, and the I stands for inking and the E stands for erasing. So actually, I'm going to ink the lines I want, and I won't ink the lines I don't want, and then I'll erase all the pencil lines. So that lower part of the loon's body hidden by the nest will disappear. I'll just ignore it for now. I love this pie process because it helps me just relax and make some mistakes and experiment on the page. So I'll keep that out right there to remind myself. I can experiment and make mistakes and change things all I want, and then we'll do some inking at the very end. Boy, that looks kind of like it looks like a huge egg in the nest. So maybe I'll put 2 eggs under it. And now the loons, when they sit on these eggs, they actually cover them up. So I have to decide if I just want to, you won't actually see the eggs in the nest if the loon's sitting on it. But as a cartoonist, I might peek them out a little bit there so you know that they're there. Sometimes in cartooning, we change the picture a little bit just so the reader knows what they're looking at. Now the head I'm going to put up here. I've been drawing the head as a circle, but actually we'll see they're a little elongated. But let's keep it a circle for now. And we'll put a circle inside, and we can put a dot inside that circle, and that loon is staring out at us. It looks a little nervous that we're coming up and looking at its nest. Let's put a triangle with a line through it. They have a long dagger-like beak. These beaks are really quite long and sharp. And it's a black beak, but I want you to see that mouth line. So sometimes I just color the top part and leave the bottom uncolored. I want you to see the mouth line so you know it opens. Actually, let's try opening that beak so we can see the other part. I'm going to erase the bottom part of that triangle, and I'll just redraw it about the same length, open a little bit, and you'll see if you check the loon cam, those loons sit in their nest and they open their beaks and they breathe and they look around, especially on hot days. Now the neck, last week we said we can just connect the neck. You notice how that connects. The back of the head comes back to the shoulder here, and about the middle of the head, somehow I bring it down and connect it to the front of the teardrop. Now, if you drew your circle forward or back, your neck's going to have a slightly different angle. We'll try that with another loon here, because each loon nest has a nesting pair that's hanging out near it. And we gave that neck a band. So we'll put a little stripe down towards the bottom of the neck. And then if you want to be fancy, you can even draw on this wing curve that shows the wing at the top of the body. The white belly will be right here. The black tail will be here. There we go. That's looking really nice. That looks so comfortable, and it's keeping those eggs warm. If you want to be realistic, really, you could show those eggs in X-ray underneath, I suppose. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's try that. Oh, I didn't even think of that, but what if we need a way to show that's an X-ray and not two eggs like under coming out a window or two eyes in the nest. So maybe let's try this, folks. I just had an idea. Let's draw our grass there. We'll erase the eggs and we'll put like a magnifying glass circle right above. And we'll put the two eggs in there. And then we'll put the nest, the mud of the nest under it. It's kind of mucky. You can be kind of messy and scribbly. And we'll put, this is the parent loon's belly here. And then we'll just put, what do we do? Like an arrow pointing down. That's kind of cool. It's like a magnifying glass that takes you into the nest. Shows you what's in there. We'll put a little frame around it, right? Well, you could do that or you can leave it off. There's so many different ways to do it. If you'd rather just cartoon those eggs, you can show them peeking up over the top of the nest and that'll be fine. We understand LoonToons. As cartoonists, LoonToons don't have to be super realistic. We do want to get the facts right though. So we want to get the right body parts, the right coloring. Oh, let's think about the back of this loon. So I've been drawing the coloring by doing stripes across it. Of course, if you look at the pictures on loon.org, where's my card for that? I'll flash this at the end too. If you check out the amazing pictures of loons at loon.org, you'll see all sorts of different feather types and coloring. But basically, I do those stripes across. Then I do lots of stripes going this way. And when we ink it, it'll start to look like little spots of white on black, especially if I make these lines a little thicker. So I'll do that in inking. Remember, we're going to color in the head. We're going to color in the neck, not that band, and the rest of the neck. I don't have to color that super black with pencil. I will get that when I come back in and ink it. So let's put our other loon in here. Now a loon in the water. That teardrop, if I were drawing ducks or geese or things like that, I would be tempted to draw that teardrop like this, floating up above the water. But you know the cool thing about loons, let's try that again. I'm going to move this teardrop down into the water. The cool thing about loons is they actually have, their skeletons, I understand, are more dense than other birds' skeletons. I think this is the case. I mean, somebody should correct me if this is not the case, because they need to dive under the water, right? And they can't dive under the water if they float on top of the water. They have to work to dive. So they want to be kind of heavy and they sink really low in the water. So they actually might be sort of like this, just barely showing up over the top of the water. And it looks like they're sinking, right? But they're actually not. They're just mostly diving, and anytime they want, they can duck under and swim like a fish, or better than a fish. All right, so here's a loon. We'll put this head up here. Let's try a different neck on this one. I'm going to leave this beak closed. There we go. We'll put the eye on. Maybe this one is watching, so we'll move that dot. I like to leave the white spot right in the dot there, right? Instead of doing just a black spot, I put a little white circle on it like that, right? And that helps it kind of shine. It's very small, but it actually makes a huge difference. So this loon ends up pointing and looking towards this loon as if to say, have they hatched yet? Well, we could have them talking, couldn't we? Now this neck, like I said, if you do the straight neck, the middle of the head's going to come back to the front of the body. The back of the head's going to come back to the shoulder here. That's the straight neck. But I'd like to try something, maybe an advanced neck. So this neck is going to be, the way I've been thinking of it is an S-curve neck. So if you can do a letter S and then a second letter S that tracks that and stays the same distance away from it. See that? Let's try that again. Do a letter S, a little relaxed S. And then another line. You don't want to be like this because that's changing the distance away from it, right? We want to do a relaxed S and then keep the same distance away from it. And that's kind of a cool thing to practice here. So let's try that with this neck. The only thing is I have to flip it because obviously this neck would look pretty funny if I didn't S curve. So that means I'll have to go this direction. Oh, this is advanced neck. So this is a double reverse S, sort of like that. Okay, I practiced it a few times. Let's try it here. So we'll go from the top back of the head. We'll curl it back to the body. And let's try that down at the bottom. Curl it back. Yeah, if it doesn't look quite right, you can move on and we'll make the next one look even better, right? And that's the advanced S neck. I love that. Then we can put our band on here. We can erase the evidence of our experimentation, right? That's not going to be part of the picture, unless you want it to be. I suppose your LoonToons could have all sorts of experiments in them. Let's come down here. We'll put the wing on. Remember that curve, or making the sort of football shape at the top. We can put our stripes across the back. I'll let you decide. Sometimes I leave my details off in the underwater part because it makes it kind of hard to see. I'll leave the checks off in the part that's underwater, or maybe I'll draw them a little differently. Now this loon, let's give it a tail, kind of a pointed tail. They're not feathered tails, right? They're kind of pointed because they want to trail through the water and dive around. There's also some nice striping on the chest. We can put a couple lines coming down here because this neck will be black. This will be black. There's a little chin strap, but we'll get into that later. We'll do advanced necks a little later. That's looking kind of nice. So this loon with a straight neck looks really alert, as if this loon just felt something hatching in the eggs here. And this loon looks kind of questioning, a little more relaxed, sort of like, did something just happen? That's kind of cool how the body language interacts and changes their emotions. Wow, this is looking really cool. So your loons might not look just like mine. You might move them around. You might have this one looking in a different direction. You can make little changes and experiment. Let's not forget, if we can see under the water here, let's not forget the legs. Now, something I don't think I mentioned last week is if this were a person, you would have the legs going like this, right? Because your knees go forward and your feet go back if you feel your own legs. But bird legs are a little different. So bird legs, first of all, remember the loon's legs are not in the middle of the body where you would expect a goose's legs or a duck's legs to be. Because loons almost never stand on land. They're really awkward on land. Their legs go back from the very back of their body. And then for the knees, they actually curve. The knees go back and then their feet come forward. See how that lets them kick? Then they can kick down and shoot out of the water onto the nest, or they can kick and dive. That really gives them like springy kicking legs. And I think last week we just said we'd give them 3 toes and webbing, right? And you notice my foot's getting pretty close to the edge here, so that margin warns me and stops me. All right. And then maybe those legs maybe they're just kicking the water, making some turbulence as this loon swims around and waits. And you can add whatever animals. I like drawing really worried fish whenever they see the loons about to dive. So you can add whatever animals you want down here. You could add a whole school of fish because they know the loons are preoccupied right now with what's going on in that nest right now. Let's have these, let's say, is it hatch day? We'll add some text up here. Hatching day, hatch day. I'll let you decide what you want to say up here. And your loons can say things too. What I recommend is you have your loons say, let's see, this one can say, whoops. Did I just feel a pip? You know what a pip is? The pip is when the chick inside pokes its beak through and makes a hole in the shell, And that means it's starting to hatch. It doesn't just happen at once, but it's definitely an important moment. So I recommend drawing your words and then doing a bubble around them, right? Because then you can fit the bubble to the words. We can point it towards the loon. And maybe this loon is speechless. These two parents are just so excited. And then you can, if you want, you can add some marsh grass. You can add bushes. I like doing sort of fluffy bushes like this. Maybe the bushes are giving them lots of shelter. I'll let you make those decisions. You can add black flies. I like adding, we'll do a line, 2 wings on that side, 2 wings on that side, dragonflies flying around. Oh, this is such a cool scene. So this, since we're doing in Comics Camp this week, what did I say our theme was for week 5? Diary comics, right? So drawing something from real life and taking details from real life and working that into your comics. I haven't decided if I want to draw a diary comic about watching for the loons to hatch, checking the loon cam that's over at loon.org. They have a live loon cam we can check. Maybe my diary comic will be about that, or maybe here's my second page I want to try. So I'll set that aside and I'll pull out my second page. You can keep working on this if you want, or you can try this new technique. I could draw a diary comic from the point of view of a loon on its first day of life. What does it see? What does it do? Of course, you notice I'm putting this margin around the outside of my page. I just do that automatically with every page I draw, except for last week when I forgot. But every page I draw has that frame around it. Maybe I'll keep this here to keep working. So when I go to draw diary comics, I seldom draw just one big picture. I'll usually do what we did last week. Remember how we divided the page in half, top and bottom? Roughly half. I'm eyeballing it. If you have a ruler, you're welcome to use a ruler too, and that'll give you a nice straight line. I'm okay with having sort of an eyeballed, hand-drawn line. Then I'll draw the page in half. I'll divide the top in half. I'll divide the bottom in half. Right? And that gives me 4 panels to tell a story. Sometimes I number them. If I'm just starting out in comics and I'm getting used to drawing stories in comics, I need to know my readers are going to read across, usually. Then they'll come down and read across this way. And those numbers help me keep my story straight. So if I want to draw, maybe I'll draw a little diary entry. As I'm watching Loon Cam, as I'm learning about loons, I'll use my imagination to think, what is this chick experiencing? Let's see. And I'm going to keep it super simple here. So maybe I'll just do the egg. Maybe I'll do my scratchy, muddy grass here. There we go. Right? That's pretty fast. And if the reader isn't going to know what that is, maybe I'll put, I could write, it's an egg, right? But it's kind of nice to use your text to add information to the picture. So if I say hatch time, maybe this egg should be a little less round, a little less like a golf ball, right? So I'll trim it up, elongate it a little bit. So when I write hatch time and you see this shape, hopefully you'll see it as an egg. Hopefully I don't need to say egg, right? Because your reader, if your reader doesn't need those words, I like to leave them out. Let the picture do the work. So here we are, and this is my muddy, scratchy, scribbly, leafy, mucky, warm, sheltered nest. Hatch time. I'm going to focus on that egg. Number 2. Let's show the pip. I'm going to try to draw the same egg. Well, that's not exactly the same, is it? But if your reader sees it as the same, that's all we need. I'll try to draw roughly the same scratchy, scribbly grass and muck. And maybe a couple leaves. Let's put a leaf in there. Same place, because I'll keep everything the same. Maybe a stick. That'll help the reader know that it's the same place. Now I'm going to draw like a little crack and a little tiny loon beak poking out, and the sound effect can be pip. Maybe a couple shell fragments, right? Maybe some lines to draw your eye down there. That's kind of cool. Or maybe, let's see, they're going to read across, and let's bring that down a little. I'm kind of I think it's very subtle how these things affect the story. I kind of want the reader to read across and bump into that beak coming out of the neck. Let's bring it down here. How about? Crack, crack, crack. Pip. Maybe I'll put a little surprise bubble around it. Maybe a couple cracks coming out. Hatch time. Pip. Now down here, let's do the egg, but we're going to take the top off. And we'll do sort of a jagged top, couple fragments around. Now here's how I like to draw my chicks. This is the emergence of the chick. This is a LoonToon cartoon chick. They are fluffy. So I'm going to draw sort of lines coming out, making this round shape coming out. Right? They're dark and fluffy on top. And then for the head, I'm going to do more fluff in a circle around an eye. And remember my little trick. I'll leave a white spot inside the eye, and I'll color the rest black, and that makes it kind of shine. And I'll do some more fluff, just coloring around that eye, and I'll give it, maybe I'll turn the head. The direction I put the beak in will determine which way it's looking. So maybe I'll put this little beak here, and they have this, you know, the cool thing about loons, when they hatch, I think it's called precocial, right? I saw this in the LoonCam blog. When they hatch, crack, maybe I'll do some more eggshells. They are fully formed. They have a fully formed beak, right? They don't need any egg tooth to help them break the egg. Their beak just cracks through that shell. They're very tiny, right? They're not able to fly. They're not adults at all. They're chicks, but they're fully formed in that once they break through that eggshell. Okay, we're going to change it up here because it's about to do its first major out of egg action. So we've kept everything the same, the setting the same. Egg in a nest, one little change. Egg in a nest, big change. Now we're going to change setting because once that loon chick hatches from that egg, you know what they can do immediately? We'll draw our water here. We'll draw our chick. And they are round and fluffy. So we're exaggerating the round and fluffiness. Let's do like a little wing there, and we'll put fluffy all around it. And we'll put that head on there. There's a lot more that happens as they're hatching. They really struggle to get out of those eggs. We're simplifying this story. I'll put the eye on there. You know what? I'm going to change that eye in a moment, but for now, we'll keep it like that. And put that beak on there because it is moving from this panel into this panel. And let's just do, this is kind of the nest. I don't think I'm even going to draw the nest in here. I'm just going to draw like action lines. Now, let's see. We need a sound effect. How about like sploop, splash? Maybe I'll do some water drops and splash. The first day they hatch, they are able to jump into the water and swim. That's what they tell me. So we will see as these loons are hatching this week. Hopefully, we'll be able to see some loon chicks come out of those eggs and jump right into the water, touching up that fluff, making it look even. Doesn't it look really like you could reach out and feel that fluff and pet it? You wouldn't want to pet a loon chick. It would freak them out. But let's see. They need to be a little healthily scared of people and other predators. So this loon chick jumps out of the nest. Maybe I'll add some nest grass here just to tie the panels together. You can draw. I'm going to leave the feet out for now. We won't do X-ray water. We'll just show it jumping in. And I think this loon is really happy to get into the water. That's really its natural element. I'll give it a little heart. I can even change this eye to be a happy eye. For some reason, doesn't that look super happy? And if there's another egg, this is just one egg. Sometimes there's only one. If there's another egg, this would be a very different story because this loon might hatch, jump into the water, and the other egg can take a couple hours to hatch. Sometimes they're laid within, I forget, half a day or a day of each other, and then they hatch they don't hatch both at once. So it's really cool. It's really planned out, or it's well organized, let's say. I don't know who's planning it. Very well organized. Well, this is cool. So the next step is to go into either one of these pages. And what did we say we were doing? We were penciling, then inking. So I'm going to start my inking here. I'll choose which one I want to do. Maybe I'll start the Hatch Time comic because we were just drawing that. So I have two inking tools I like to use. You're welcome to use any kind of black ink that gives you a clear line. But I use these felt tip flare pens, and I use these chisel tip markers. And they're all water-based ink, so they clean up really easily. I think for the egg, I want that to jump off the page. So I'm going to give it a nice thick outline. And I'll even do the words like that. That kind of ties them together. And you know what I think I might do? I might do the panel borders too. Remember your panel borders. I don't think I'm going to ink these numbers because I don't think you need them. You'll get the story. So I'll even do these panel borders in a nice bold black line. Beautiful. I'll do this one. I'll do them all, but I'll do this one for now just to show you. I'll do them all. Maybe I'll leave the panel border off the last one or something special like that. Then I'll come in. I'll definitely do my leaf. I'll definitely do my stick. And then I'll kind of scribble, scratch in the grass and the muck and the mud. And maybe I'll shade a little more under the egg. See that? Give it a little bit of a shadow against that grass. Oh, this is looking so cool. Like, I like the thin lines, the way the thin scribble lines kind of make it look like you could run your hands over that muck and mud and come away with grass stuck to your hands. Very cool. And that egg, really there would be a parent sitting over it to keep it warm, right? And, you know, maybe I go back to my pencil and I draw that in. I can decide if I want to ink that or not. Oh, these chicks are so cute and they're so fun to draw. You know, if you're having any trouble drawing your chicks, one practice method that I use is I make a circle and then I make the circle fuzzy. And I practice doing that. I make a circle or an oval, and then I just go around the edge and make lines sticking out from it. And I practice that and practice that. And if you do enough of those, you'll get used to, you'll be able to imagine the circle and then go around it and make those lines sticking out. Or you could always do that, I suppose, and then come in and ink them, but not ink that circle, couldn't you? And then when you come in and erase, I don't want my ink to smudge here. I'll give it a couple minutes, but when I erase, see that? That line will disappear. So either way you want to do those chicks. Whoops, you'll find a way to do it. So just make sure you have carefully penciled out your whole picture. I do recommend maybe running it by somebody. That star means have somebody else check it. Have somebody else read it back to you. Maybe spell check for it. Maybe science fact check. Before I ink these, I'm going to go back and check loon.org and make sure I got some of my facts right. Make sure the neck's curve in the right way and the limbs, the knees are in the right position, and so on and so forth. And then once you have your finished product, you can take a snapshot of it from right overhead, and then you can share it, tag it Comics Camp 2020, tag it Green July. You can share it to the Green July site if you're part of that camp. I can't wait to see what your loons are up to. We may have some hatching happening today, so we are keeping an eye on the Loon Cam, the live Loon Cam over at loon.org. Once I finish up here, I'm going to go check that. If you want to join Green July, they have daily activities going on. Thank you so much, Green July, for making these Comics Camp LoonToons a part of your program. It's wonderful to draw with you every Wednesday. So we're watching the Loon Cam thanks to Green July. There was something else I had to mention. Oh yeah, one more reminder that Comics Camp 2020 is all summer. You can join anytime, pay what you can. It's totally accessible. Come on over to marekbennett.com and you'll see a link to Comics Camp. And if you want to join the Patreon, there's a lot of other stuff that I'm sending out to campers via Patreon. I'm doing mailings this week, actually, with some loons in them. Oh, here's one other thing I'll show you. Is in Comics Camp, we're learning to make these mini comics that show, in some cases, they're about loons and their quest for safe habitat, right? But this was a practice I did actually to practice turning a single sheet of paper, right? This is an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And just with a secret special fold, it becomes an 8-page book. And we have some videos on there in Comics Camp that show you how to do that. And maybe we'll even practice that with Green July. And the cool thing about that is I can then shrink it down. And this is going out with the Patreon mailings. And I'm sending directions about how to do this secret fold on this shrunk down mini comic, right? You make 3 simple half folds. You open it up and reverse a fold. I'm doing this kind of fast, but I want you to see it. And then you can go to my site and check out the videos. You rummage around. There we go. You rummage around for a pair of scissors at your desk. Find them. You make one little cut halfway across that book. And when you open it up, then you have this opening in it. So you can take it, do this secret special fold, make the X, bring the arms around, and it becomes an 8-page book that you can then share with your friends. And you can make a ton of these. We're going to make some more of these with the loons. We're going to find out some ways that loons live and some ways that loons are threatened in their environment through lead poisoning. So first, we're hatching loons this week, and then we'll meet some other animals too through these mini comics. Cool. So I'll see you next Wednesday, Green Julyers. And all you other folk in Comics Camp, great to have you on board. Thanks for drawing loons with us. Keep drawing your diary comics challenge. Draw a diary comic every day this week, and we'll see what we have at the end of the week. And thank you to our new patrons and old patrons at the Patreon. It's really great to have you on board and receiving all the mailings and everything. All right. I guess this is Marek Bennett signing off. I'm going to go ink these. Maybe I'll see you out live inking on the Facebook page and so on. Keep an eye on that Loon Cam, folks. This is an exciting few days here. We don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully in another day or two, we'll have some loon hatching action. Thanks for drawing with us. Have a great week, everybody. See you next time.